Live number 2. This information is pertaining to an allegation and a new lawsuit against Sean Puffy Combs and the infamous store Macy's. Law and Crime is the source. Thank you for joining me. Have a wonderful week, everybody.
Which he pleaded not guilty to. But he's been slapped with a number of lawsuits accusing him of sexual misconduct, including rape and assault, which he also denies those allegations too. So here we are, around 40 lawsuits deep, a trial that's right around the corner. But one thing maybe Diddy didn't expect was the largest department store in the US calling him an equal opportunity predator. Yup, those exact words. So let me explain. Back in October, a client of Tony Busby filed a lawsuit against Diddy accusing him of orally raping him in a Macy's stockroom. Now, this alleged attack happened back in 2008. John Doe says at the time he was working for Echo, the rival clothing company to Diddy's Sean John brand. Both of those clothing lines were carried at Macy's. On the day this allegedly happened, John Doe says Diddy entered the stockroom with bodyguards, who were armed by the way. Doe claims one or more of the guards hit him, or he might have been pistol whipped, which caused him to fall to his hands and knees. Now, Doe says one or more of Diddy's bodyguards threatened to kill him, but then Diddy demanded he perform oral sex on him. The plaintiff described in his lawsuit the oral rape went on for about 2 minutes. And after the attack, Diddy grabbed a bunch of Sean John merchandise from the stockroom and began passing it around to a crowd as if nothing happened. So beyond this allegedly happening in Macy's, what does this have to do with the department?
Let's stop right there.
Conduct, including rape and assault.
Stop right there. Woo, wild allegations. Number 1, this happened in 2008. Why are we just now hearing about this allegation of a sexual assault in an open storage room where people are coming and going, cameras? You know they're going to have cameras because they have high price merchandise. They don't want anyone stealing from them. So what do the cameras show? When and why are we just now hearing about this? Why didn't he hire a lawyer a long time ago to sue the store and Puffy? Did Puffy assault this man? Was he hit by a bodyguard? Did he enter the room with bodyguards, or did he enter by himself? Did he even show up at this so-called storage room? This is the craziest nonsense I've ever heard. Now, a lot of these allegations are very wicked, such as the one by Lil Rod. I can't see how a man would allow a man to grope him and make sexual advances toward him if he's not a homosexual himself. That allegation is bullshit to me because I feel like you're a man. If you can't stand up for yourself as a man, you've got problems. You've got major problems. So now fast forward a year later, here's another allegation coming out of October 24 that this man worked in a storage room, of Macy's, and Sean comes in with his goons, hitting him and then raping him for 2 minutes. Oh my God. Well, it wasn't a long sexual assault. Not to be disrespectful, I'm just saying, 2 minutes. 2 minutes, Dougie Fresh, you're on 2 minutes. This is ridiculous. What is the truth pertaining to this allegation? You're now hearing of 40 lawsuits against Sean Puffy Combs. More Puffy Gate. Once again, welcome to the Vault XL.
Assault, which he also denies those allegations too. So here we are, around 40 lawsuits deep, a trial that's right around the corner. But one thing maybe Diddy, which caused him to fall to his hands and knees. Now, Doe says one or more of Diddy's bodyguards threatened to kill him, but then Diddy demanded he perform oral sex on him. The plaintiff described in his lawsuit the oral rape went on for about 2 minutes. And after the attack, Diddy grabbed a bunch of Sean John merchandise from the stockroom and began passing it around to a crowd as if nothing happened. So beyond this allegedly
So who did he pass these shirts out to?
The department store. Well, their name Echo executives to fire John Doe because he signed a multi-million-dollar deal with Sean John Clothing. Now, John Doe also believes the assault was destroyed or purged from Macy's records and no action was ever taken.
Wait, we got to go back on that. Sense. Hold on.
To fire John Doe because he signed a multi-million-dollar deal with Sean John Clothing. Now, John Doe also believes the assault was destroyed or
he signed a multi-million-dollar deal with Sean John. I'm confused. What the hell am I listening to? The same guy who was allegedly assaulted, he signed a 100. This don't make no sense. I got to play that again. This don't make no sense what you're saying. So something's off here.
Allegedly happening in Macy's. this have to do with the department store? Well, they're named in the lawsuit as a defendant. According to John Doe, 3 weeks later, the CEO of Macy's pressured Echo executives to fire John Doe because he signed a multi-million-dollar deal with Sean John Clothing. Now, John Doe also believes the assault was destroyed or purged from Macy's records and no action was ever taken. So that was laid out in the lawsuit filed in October. Now, jumping to this week, the retail store is asking a judge to remove them as a defendant in the lawsuit. Now, here's their reasoning. They claim the 22 Amendment of New York City's Victim of Gender-Motivated Violence Law doesn't apply and didn't extend to corporations. But the department store also argues John Doe fails to plausibly allege violence and that he contradicted his claim. In their response, Macy's writes, plaintiff's own allegations establish not only that this was a same-sex assault, but that Mr. Combs sexually assaulted both men and women without regard to gender. Macy's lawyers continued by writing, other than saying in passing that it does not matter, plaintiff does not address the fact that his own allegations establish that Mr. Combs was an equal opportunity sexual predator. So essentially they argue Diddy doesn't care about gender. But they point that going off John Doe's claims, Diddy might have been motivated by race instead. Why? Because Diddy allegedly called this John Doe white boy when he attacked him in the stockroom. Now,
so he's white. Who cares? See, when you start getting meticulous in a suit, you still make yourself look bad. You still make yourself look bad, okay? Nobody cares. White, black, blue, child, boy, girl, woman, man. We know that he's an equal opportunist. That's obvious. Because too many people are coming out with allegations against him, and they are all racist. They're men, they're women. They were children at the time of their alleged assaults. So we know he doesn't discriminate. White, black, Hispanic, he does not care. But when you start stipulating in your lawsuit and your counterclaim, like, well, it wasn't this, it wasn't that, you're making yourself appear guilty as if, yeah, we know he did it, but the plaintiff didn't specify this or that. It's almost as if you're saying basically, yeah, we know Sean did it. But this is a racial issue, not same sex. Who cares? If he actually pulled his penis out and stuffed it in this man's mouth, who gives a fuck that he was a white man? Are you serious? Oh my God, I'm dead. Brief intermission, everybody. This is some sick shit here. Man, if y'all don't put this black man down like a rabid dog, just put his ass down and be done with it. Seriously.
These lawyers wrote, in light of the racial context of the phrase as a whole, the use of the boy here functions primarily as a term of status and belittlement, boy versus man, rather than as a gendered comment, boy versus girl. It is in fact an inversion of the classically racist use of the term boy to degrade or belittle African Americans, end quote. So yeah, Macy's definitely had some interesting arguments to not only get them removed as a defendant, but get the complaint dismissed entirely. But will it work? According to Tony Busby, it shouldn't. Now remember, he's the Texas powerhouse attorney filing dozens of lawsuits for more of Diddy's alleged victims. He responded to this argument by telling Business Insider a pretty novel argument that should fail. Well, Diddy's attorney responded too with a motion to dismiss the complaint, but also for the plaintiff, aka John Doe, to reveal himself. It's unclear right now how this will all fare out. No court date is set in this particular case, but Diddy has a lot more to worry about, like his federal trial set in May. Let's bring on now criminal defense attorney Oleg Nekritin to break down this fiery response from Macy's. Oleg, thank you so much for joining me. What's your reaction to, because let's go back a little bit, back to October. What's your reaction to Macy's even being named in John Doe's lawsuit after they were accused of covering up the sexual attack?
It's surprising because if you read the body of the complaint doesn't actually allege that the individual who was victimized was an employee at Macy's. Instead, it alleges that he was in a Macy's store. He was in the back room, maybe the stock room, working as a consultant for Echo. Not sure why he'd be in the back room, but he was. And he alleges that P. Diddy, Sean Combs, comes to the back room with 3 bodyguards. One of the bodyguards apparently hits him on the side of the neck, causes him to go down on his knees, and then, unfortunately, Mr. Combs allegedly forces him to have oral sex. He doesn't actually allege that Macy's did anything prior to the event, the purported unlawful event to cause any wrongdoing or any sexual assault or any or cause him to any wrongs. It's after the fact, meaning after the alleged event, John Doe goes to Macy's security and advises them of the incident, and he alleges that Macy's security essentially covers up the act. That if they take a report, they don't save it, and subsequently he even alleges that the CEO of Macy's actually went to his boss at Echo and forced them or convinced them to fire him after being employed by Echo for 7 years. So it's an after-the-fact type of conspiracy. It's more of an allegation of a cover-up than actually doing something to harm him. Which, if you read the statute of cited in a complaint under the Victims of Gender-Motivated Violence Protection Law or Act, the law applies to individuals or entities who commit, direct, enable, participate, or conspire in the commission of the crime. Here, again, it was after the fact. So it's surprising from a legal perspective that the complaint would be filed, but Mr. Busby is a very successful attorney. He's made a lot of money. He sees a defendant with deep pockets, and like any good attorney, he goes after that defendant with good deep pockets. What's the worst that could happen? The judge will dismiss the complaint, and that's it. So the plaintiff's attorney sees his shot, and he takes.
And why do you think Macy's didn't respond earlier with a motion to dismiss? Why do you think that they waited until February?
Now we have to ask, how many of these lawsuits will be dismissed by judges? And as you hear her saying about Macy's and this debacle with John Doe and Sean Puffy Combs, why didn't Macy's file a motion, I guess, earlier, since this news is, I hadn't heard anything about it, because as I said, there have been so many suits popping up against Sean, you can't even keep up. They start to run into each other. The scenarios start to run into each other. You start mixing them up. I don't even try to make a claim on who did what and who said what and what year it took place, because I'm not about to sit here and try to keep a fucking database from 1990 up until 2025. Ain't no way I'm going to do that. Jane Doe, John Doe. So will John Doe be revealed? Will John Doe drop his lawsuit? Why didn't he file a suit when the assault occurred? You're talking about 17 years ago. 17 years ago, you were allegedly assaulted by him in a back room of a store. So, one, how would Sean know that guy would be back there in the back room? Had he had some dealings with him? Something about this $100 million deal, I don't understand what that's about. All this is confusing to me. My head tells me don't even inquire, because you're never going to get to the gist of a damn thing. And I won't doubt if it actually happened in that storeroom. Macy's deleted the tape. They didn't keep the tape. Let's just say it did happen. They're not going to keep that tape to show this man walking in their store, raping somebody in a damn storage room. Back room of a store. Come on. They're not. And they're selling his clothes too. And then they're selling the rival clothes, Echo brand. This is some deep shit. And I hope it's not true, because this is crazy.
So if you look at the docket sheet, after the complaint was filed in October 2024, Macy's was actually served about a month prior to filing their response. So they actually responded in a timely manner. There was some delay between the filing of the complaint and actual service. So there was no delay on Macy's part.
And, going into Macy's response, what is your reaction to Macy's responding by calling Diddy an equal opportunity predator, given that John Doe filed the lawsuit under the New York City Gender-Motivated Violence Act or law? But John Doe also admits that Diddy is willing to attack both men and women in his complaint.
Brief intermission. Exactly. He doesn't care. He doesn't care if you're a man, woman, child. Sean Puffy Combs don't care. You could be a dog. I won't be surprised if he's had sex with animals. As I've told you before, that's the only thing left pertaining to any allegation against him is allegation of murder and bestiality. Now, some do believe he unalived Miss Kim Porter. They don't have any proof to that. Allegedly, she died from natural causes. She died from pneumonia. It is what it is.
It was surprising. Usually, when you're a defendant, you live by the axiom of don't harm the other defendant, because if your motion to dismiss is denied, you're going to have to work with the other defendant. And you try not to put them in a position where they're adversarial to your interests. But Macy's has taken a calculated risk that the allegations aren't enough to establish a cause of action under the statute pled. They have to show, the plaintiff has to show under this cause of action that the event or the crime was motivated by gender in some way. If you read the complaint, it doesn't really go into allegations related to animus by P. Diddy towards other men. It doesn't really suggest on its face that P. Diddy committed an act motivated by animus towards men. And that's where you get the quote, he's an equal opportunity offender. He allegedly assaults males and females. And on its face, it suggests that there was no motivation based on gender. He assaults people irrespective of gender. But for a motion like this, a 12b6 motion, where the court has to grant inferences in favor of the non-moving party, which is plaintiff in this matter, the court could very easily conclude, based on the complaint, that after the incident occurred, P. Diddy was taunting the victim. So the court may simply state that based on the taunting, the taunting could have been motivated by animus towards gender. The court may ask the plaintiff to specify what the taunts were, and then the plaintiff may supplement the complaint or amend the complaint to include details of the taunts. For example, were there derogatory comments towards the individual based on his sex? Did they imply that he was gay or homosexual? And if they would probably survive the motion to dismiss on that basis.
And I was going to ask as well, too, given what we know now, given that response, do you see a judge dismissing Macy's as a defendant or even the complaint altogether?
The judge, I think, if he reads the complaint and applies the law in a very measured way, not expanding it, just applies the law in the way that it's written, the complaint will probably be dismissed, because Macy's is after the fact, is after the commission of the crime, not before. So the allegation is that Macy's, after the fact, essentially covered the case up, but that's not an assisting in the commission of a crime, unless you interpret commission of a crime in a very liberal or vast way. And so a judge may, but again, if the statute is interpreted in a very conservative or as written way, Macy's will probably prevail on the motion to dismiss, I think, because again, the wrongdoing alleged as against Macy's is after the fact. Mr. Busby, he kind of, in his complaint, in his response to the motion to dismiss, he says, well, P. Diddy had a reputation before this incident, and nobody should have permitted P. Diddy in a Macy's store by himself. And therefore, just the fact that they permitted him in the store, they have potentially acted in a negligent manner. But that's that type of one.
This is the most powerful.
Brief intermission. Well, someone still can say, what was he doing back there in the storeroom if it's true? What business do you have back there in the storeroom and then in the opposite brand storeroom? Echo does not belong to you. So why would you be back in the Echo storeroom? You're supposed to be looking at the displays in the store, how your brand is laid out in the store, not the back room. The back room has no relevance to any brand holder. You want to see how your merchandise looks on the floor because that's where people are going to see your merchandise. So frankly, he didn't have any reason to be in the back room unless there was something wrong with the clothing itself when it arrived and they were pulling it out of the packaging and you want to say, hey, we're having a problem. The things aren't stitched properly. They're falling apart, something like that. Then he could go back in the room and say, well, let me come back there and let me look at the merchandise. But he was in the opposite brand, Echo brand, which didn't belong to him. So he had no business back there any damn way because that wasn't even his brand of clothing to be looking at. Now, I'm assuming the stockroom held all brands of clothing. Let me make that clear. All brands of clothing would be in the stockroom, but the point is you're over there messing and meddling over in a department of the storeroom that didn't have your merchandise. So you'd have no business over there rambling in that merchandise or messing with that guy. So I see they might have a little bit of ground to say, well, you're back there doing mischievous things. You're over here in the other side of the brand store, in the storeroom with the other opposite brand. For what reason? That don't look good right there, even if he didn't put his hands on the guy, touch the man, or put his penis in his mouth. This is crazy to me. And I believe I'm sitting here repeating this nonsense. It's ridiculous.
Kind of agree with you there, especially given that these allegations stem from 2008. Maybe it'd be different if we were talking about 2025. Maybe that might be a little more plausible, but back in 2008, I would be interested to see if that actually would work. And speaking of Tony Busby, he also responded to Macy's response and called it a pretty novel argument that should fail. What do you make of that statement?
It was a pretty clever, unique argument made by the defendant in that they're interpreting the statute from the date that it was enacted, and therefore, for example, before 2022, the statute applied to individuals. After 2022, the statute applies to entities and individuals. But the plaintiff is essentially the defendant, Macy's, is essentially arguing that the section of the statute which refers to the grace period, the 2-year grace period from 2022, it applies for causes of actions that arose after the date of the statute. But if you actually read the statute, I think if you interpret it as in a way that it's written, it applies to any and all causes of action that arose before that date. And then you have 2 years and 6 months from the date of the enactment of the statute to file your cause of action. So I don't think that's the winning argument on behalf of Macy's. I think the winning argument is statute doesn't apply to the case because whatever Macy's did that was wrong occurred after the fact, after the crime, not before.
And given that, Diddy faces a number of civil complaints for sexual misconduct, given that he's in jail for federal sex trafficking, do you see these complaints getting litigated at any point, or these lawsuits getting litigated at any point?
Exactly.
Going off of your point that you had just made too, do you see other corporations or entities using that same tactic Macy's did to kind of be like, okay, we kind of still fall under this like weird little period of that the gender motive, using that same kind of defense in their argument?
Yeah. The problem with filing a lawsuit against P. Diddy is that you got to get in line. There's been many causes of action. I think there's been 30 filed
in line
against him. His attorneys are probably going to move for motions to stay the cases until the resolution of the criminal matter. There's natural requests for discovery extensions due to just the sheer number of cases and the volume of cases. If you're a defendant that's a company or a corporation, you probably want to drag your feet because plaintiffs, if they don't see the money bag towards the end of the case, they may lose interest and settle for pennies on the dollar, or they just may lose interest and agree to walk away from the case.
I guess we'll see where all of this goes. Oleg, thank you so much for your insight into this. I really appreciate your time today. Before we sign you off, though, is there anything else you would like to?
No, thank you so much for having me here. My pleasure.
All right. So that was their guest speaking. give us another look. Mr. Busby, who's representing numerous of clients. Oh, Lordy. Sean Puffy Combs. What is the truth to this allegation and this John Doe and MACY'S? What is the truth? Lord have mercy. I don't know what to say. I'm just like overwhelmed listening because it just goes on and on and on. These allegations, you can't even understand how it came to be. All of these different random people. But see, this is what people don't understand. You don't know people. Younger Sean, you don't know people. I say this all the time. You don't know what goes on behind closed doors. I'm going to give you a rundown by Forbes magazine. Okay? This article was published just a few days ago, Valentine's Day. So in case you need to go verify it, here is the article. New accusers claim they were assaulted by Diddy Combs. Here are all Tony Bugsy's lawsuits. In this article, I counted 30 claims brought forward by Mr. Bugsby and his law firm, okay? 30. Allegedly, it was like 100 plus, 125 plus. So I'm going to give you just a brief rundown. So this is the title of the article if you want to go read each account verbatim, because I'm not going to read 30 allegations because it's too winded. But I want to give you a source in case you'd like to go read it for yourself. Forbes magazine, okay? Texas attorney Tony Bugzy, who has claimed he will ultimately represent more than 100 accusers who plan to file civil suits against Diddy Combs alleging crimes including sexual assault, rape, sexual abuse of minors, has filed dozens complaints on behalf of unnamed plaintiffs as Combs broadly denies the allegations against him. So, the latest one was February 14th of this year. Bugsy's law firm dropped a case involving a then 13-year-old who accused Combs and Jay-Z of rape. Okay? That's the latest developments of a young lady, Jane Doe, whose name has not been revealed. She has dropped a lawsuit pertaining to Jay-Z and Sean sexually assaulting her after an awards party at a home. Information does not add up, allegedly. Father has been interviewed saying he does not remember picking her up from this said house and taking her back to their home on that fateful night. There's also another one that just came forward on the 14th. Unnamed woman claims Combs shoved his hand up her skirt, digitally penetrated her after berating her, intercepting an alcoholic drink at a Los Angeles club in 2016. Lawsuit filed in New York Supreme Court. The woman said Combs said, "BITCH, I do what I want. I take that, SHIT," while assaulting her before she was able to return to her hotel room, where she awoke the next day with bruises. So this was at a club in 2016 in Los Angeles. On the 12th of February, unnamed male plaintiff said he was an aspiring 21-year-old model in 2006. When at a casting call for Bad Boy Records, he refused to undress in front of Combs, who then groped him and whispered, "Get me when you change your mind. Get me when you change your mind." Oh, Lord. February 10th. These are just the latest ones. Unnamed aspiring musician said he was invited to a 2022 A-list birthday party by a man claiming to be talent scout for Combs. When he arrived, Combs allegedly made numerous promises about helping him secure a major recording contract before asking the plaintiff to perform sexual favors. When he refused, Combs withdrew the offer of help in the music industry and raped the plaintiff, the lawsuit claims. So where did this take place? Where did this, it says, invited to a birthday party. So was the birthday party at someone's home, apartment, condo, a venue, what? This is just ridiculous. So it goes down from there, from February on back into 24. 30 are listed. I think I counted 30 on here. Let's see, hold on, let me go right back. Hold on one second, everybody. I'll make sure. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 30 allegations on this article, in this article. Mr. Combs and his legal team have full confidence in the facts, their legal defenses, and the integrity of the judicial process. Combs' attorney said in a statement in October, their latest in continuous denials of any wrongdoing in court. The truth will prevail. Mr. Combs has never sexually assaulted anyone, adult, minor, man, or woman. Well, that was months ago. It is now 2025. What do you have to say pertaining to your client? Same nonsense. Attorney Tony Busby, who represented Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton in his impeachment trial and former Texas Governor Rick Perry following his indictment, held a press conference in early October to say he is representing 120 accusers with allegations against Combs. Though initially reported as a class action lawsuit, Busby has begun to file separate claims on behalf of his clients who lives in states across the country. He said his lawsuits will expose the enablers who enabled this conduct behind closed doors, which include many powerful people. Busby said thousands of people have come forward with claims against Combs and that his clients hail from 25 states. He also said more than 24 of the accusers were minors at the time of their alleged abuse, including one plaintiff who says they were 9 years old at the time of their encounter with Mr. Combs. And I believe that happens to be a male. As I said, I believe he has assaulted, drugged, and filmed sexual assault against said persons, female, male, children. I don't feel like he has discriminated. This issue with MACY'S could be a cover-up, and I said that earlier during the live stream. They're not going to keep any video, audio of a man raping a man in their own storeroom. Hell no, because they already know they're going to get sued up the wazoo. So I find it interesting that we're now 17 years later hearing about a lawsuit, hearing about an alleged incident in a storeroom in MACY'S, and why are we just now hearing about it? Now, naturally, as I said, when people are famous, they are afraid to sue. So even if this happened at a store, happened at someone's home, a hotel, they will be afraid to sue because it's a famous person. This is why you don't hear these type of allegations, because people are afraid. They know they'll possibly be intimidated. You know, anything about your past will come out in court if it makes it to court. Anything you've done wrong, criminal, your sexual activity, all that's going to play out. Medical records, all of that. That's the reason why many people don't file suits or even go to the police department to say that they were sexually assaulted by a man, woman, whomever, or a child. Just afraid. And I get it. You don't want to be scrutinized. You don't want to be ridiculed. You don't want to be judged. You don't want to be thought of as a liar. But we now know this is why you can't uphold people and put them on pedestals and say what they would and wouldn't do. We hear this a lot with sexual assaults pertaining to men on women. Oh, why would he do it? He can get any woman he want. He can get any girl he want. Well, it's not about getting any woman or girl. Allegedly, it's a control, dominance. But I still believe it's sex in nature. Because as I said to people, you can control and manipulate people in a multitude of ways without having sex with them, without taking the cookie. Okay? Let's keep it real. Or without taking the John boy. Okay? You can manipulate a person without having to sexually assault them. If your game is tight, you can manipulate a person into doing just about any damn thing. And we've seen this time and time again. Hell, look at this country. Somebody manipulated people into voting for number 47. Shall I go on? Say what? That was probably one of the greatest mind fucks that ever happened. Times 2. Checkmate. Oh yeah, I keep it real. The greatest mind fuck was getting 47 back in the office. So trust me, it doesn't have to be sex involved to manipulate one's mind. I rest my case. Yes, he's an opportunist. Equally. He doesn't care. But where I have a problem is this MACY'S issue. Did this incident occur? Did they cover it up after the fact? Then we got this statute of limitations bullshit of these lawsuits being put to file. March 1st is the last day in the state of New York. You can bring forward such type of lawsuit. Okay? So what's going to happen with this John Doe and MACY'S? MACY'S wants to be removed from the lawsuit because they're stipulating what he put in the lawsuit as far as same sex, this and that, rape. Because you're trying to stipulate words. And when you start doing that tit for tat, well, you didn't say this in the lawsuit, leads one to believe, well, you know that he's that way. You know that Sean's that way because you're saying it. Well, he's an equal opportunist. He'll rape anybody. Okay, so just because a person didn't say it in their lawsuit, well, I'm white and he sexually assaulted me. He likes only this type of person. It really don't matter. If a person can be proved as a rapist, it really don't matter if today they raped a boy, they raped a female the next day. If one was white today and one was black tomorrow, one was Hispanic 5 weeks later, who cares? But I get it. You have to be specific in your allegations against the person. But I feel like if you have been sexually assaulted, it shouldn't matter me making a claim for the world who Sean Combs is and what his type is. That's not for me to have to prove. He has a type. He only raped me because I was white, or he only raped me because I was Hispanic. He only raped me because I was black. It's proven at this point he has fondled and groped and drugged and raped all kinds of people. Children, men, women, whatsoever. I believe he has. Now, I get it. He has not been charged with any of these rapes, druggings, but the allegations are numerous. And you have many people who work with him who basically, got some stories to tell themselves. Bandmates, I don't think they're lying. And this is what happens when you go into a certain line of work. You're holding on for dear life because you're trying to make money. You're trying to be successful in your career, and you're willing to put up with anything. And see, that's a dangerous thing when you're willing to hold on for dear life just to say, oh, I'm in the music business. Oh, I got a contract. Oh, I'm working with Sean Combs. I'm working with R. Kelly. Well, look at the price you're having to pay. Somebody talking down to you, calling you names, belittling you, groping you, sexually assaulting you, drugging you. That's a hell of a price to pay. And as I said before, this man had no business in that back room if that's true. He had no reason to be back there unless there was something wrong with the clothes under his name, Sean John. He had no business on the Echo side of the storeroom, okay? That's number one. Number two, he had no business saying anything to that guy who worked for Echo. None whatsoever. It is what it is. Now, I'm going to go back in here and see. We're going to go back to October because that's when these allegations came about and brought forward legally to the forefront. Let's see. We'll go to Business Insider. This was 6 days ago, everybody. Welcome to the Vault Excel. Thank you for your time. It says Macy's wants a judge to remove it from sexual assault against Sean Diddy Combs. Sue says Macy's violated gender violence law by ignoring an attack at the Herald Square store. Plaintiff himself describes Diddy as an equal opportunity sexual predator, Macy's argues. Macy's wants to be removed from this suit. And their arguments for dismissal, including calling the rap entrepreneur an equal opportunity sexual predator. So that means you're acknowledging that Sean Puffy Combs is a predator. Now, remember, he's never been charged with a crime until recently, but he has not been found guilty. So you're not acknowledging in your own mouth, or whoever's representing Macy's, oh yeah, Sean is an equal opportunist. Very interesting information. He uses Macy's violating a New York City gender violence law by covering up an alleged attack by Combs on a male employee at the Herald Square flagship store in 2008. The worldwide department chain argues the plaintiff, only identified as John Doe, cannot accuse Macy's of gender bias because in the very same lawsuit, Doe himself describes Combs as willing to attack both men and women. Plaintiff's own allegations established not only that this was a same-sex assault, but that Mr. Combs sexually assaulted both men and women without regard to gender, the Macy's lawyers argued in court papers last week. Plaintiff does not address the fact that his own allegations established that Mr. Combs was an equal opportunity sexual predator. See, they're going on and on arguing about words. A spokesperson for Combs declined to comment on Macy's argument, instead referring to BI to his own motion to dismiss the case against himself and his companies filed Tuesday. His motion also alleges the applicability of New York's gender violence law. Combs has repeatedly denied any of the sexual assaults. Mr. Combs denies the entirely false, salacious claims against him in the complaint and is confident that he and the company, defendants against whom no misconduct or participation is even alleged, would be fully vindicated if this case were to proceed to trial. His dismissal motion said. District Court Judge J. Paul Orkin decision on whether to dismiss Macy's would come at any time. A decision on Cohn's dismissal bid is not due until sometime after the plaintiff's response. Macy's is the deepest pocket defendant by far in any of a blizzard of more than 30 sex assault lawsuits filed against a rapper in the past year. The plaintiff says in his lawsuit that at the time of the alleged attack, he was working at Macy's flagship Manhattan store for Echo, a rival hip-hop fashion brand to Cohn's Sean John clothing. His 19-page lawsuit alleges that he was working at a stockroom when Cohn's entered with 3 bodyguards, struck him, threatened to kill him. Cohn's then orally raped him in the stockroom while calling him Echo and taunting. You like that, white boy? The lawsuit alleges. After what was alleged to be a 2-minute attack, Cohn's then grabbed armfuls of Sean John clothing, left the stockroom with his bodyguards, and proceeded to hand out clothes to shoppers as if nothing had happened. Now, I find that strange. You mean to tell me there are no cameras in the store to see him walking out of the store, taking the merchandise and handing it out to people? Now, wouldn't security come up and say, hey, you can't do this. You can't be handing out these clothes. That's theft. This is bullshit. This is the stupidest thing I ever heard. And if they allow Sean to do this, they're crazy as hell. It doesn't matter if I'm selling your clothes, a rival's clothes. You're not going to come in my storeroom and rape an employee and then go out to the floor and take the clothes and start handing them out to different people. So you mean to tell me after he got raped, he stood and watched him hand the clothes out? See, that's strange. So you have to pay attention to all the details. The plaintiff alleges that the claim did nothing to support him when he came forward with his allegations against Combs and instead fired him to protect a multi-million-dollar deal with Sean. Okay, so that's what they were trying to allude in Law and Crime earlier when I read, because I didn't quite understand what they were saying, the way they worded it. So he's saying he got fired so they could keep their multi-million-dollar deal with Sean. Okay. In fighting to be dropped as a defendant, lawyers for Macy's argued that the lawsuit does not allege store employees were in any way involved in the attack. Macy's lawyers also pointed to the New York City Victims of Gender-Motivated Violence Protection Law. The lawyers for the man had argued in their lawsuit that the gender violence law entitled their client to seek damages from Macy's. Macy's countered the law does not permit claims against corporations for assaults prior to 2022, and that the lawsuit failed to offer any evidence that the alleged violence was motivated by gender bias. Combs' alleged white boy taunt does not refer to gender bias, Macy's lawyers argued in papers signed by attorney Daniel Kotler. The word boy in that scenario functions primarily as a term of status and belittlement, boy versus man, rather than as a gendered comment, boy versus girl. It is in effect an inversion of the classically racist use of the term boy to degrade or belittle African Americans, Macy's side argued. Kotler did not immediately respond to requests for comment for this story. Bugsby, the lead attorney for the plaintiff, counters in court papers that New York gender violence law does cover corporations involved in attacks prior to 2022. He also argues that the fact that Combs violently assaulted people of both genders does not somehow exempt him from the law. Exactly, that's my point. A pretty novel argument that should fail, Bugsby told Business Insider on Tuesday of Macy's dismissal of the arguments. And once again, a sexual assault survivor, you can call the National Sexual Assault Hotline at 1-800-656-4673 or visit the website to receive confidential support. So this is ridiculous to me. This story to me is more wild than the Little Rod story. Did he sexually assault this man in the store with his goons beside him? Did you all see the tape or a visual of the assault and you covered it up, Macy's? The fact that you're arguing in court over wordings and statute of limitations and corporations aren't included in the suing of this gender bias, blah, 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 is bullshit. You're basically saying it's okay for Sean to rape and do what he wants to do because of stipulations in the law and the time that a lawsuit was filed, blah, 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 blah. That's basically what you're saying. You've willingly admitted it in the last article that I read, that he's an equal opportunist. So you're owning that, even though he has not been convicted of sexual assault in the United States, but you're saying it out of your own mouth. Your representation is saying it. But you're right now arguing in court the wordings of the plaintiff's allegation in a suit. Well, he didn't say this, he didn't say this, so it don't count. That's basically what you're saying. That it's all in the wording. You're contradicting yourself. He's an equal opportunist, but hey, you filed the paperwork on this day and you didn't specify this, that, and this in the lawsuit. So we need to be absolved from being in the suit. No, it happened in your store. If indeed Sean assaulted him in your store, you are liable. Doesn't matter that it didn't happen by a Macy's employee. Okay? It doesn't matter. It's in your store, in your back room, in an area where nobody is supposed to be but employees. Checkmate. Sean Combs had no business back there if it wasn't official Sean John business, such as to check the merchandise. Something's wrong with the merchandise. They call him, hey, would you like to come look at the clothes? Or he called and said, well, let me look and see what came in. That's the only reason he would have to be back there. The fact that he's meddling over in the other brand's clothing and messing with the guy who worked for Echo, that looks personal. So all this, he said, boy, it ain't this, it ain't that. He didn't word it right in the documentation in the lawsuit. Just stop it. Young man, you should have filed a suit as soon as he sexually assaulted you. You should have ran out of there and ran to the police department and filed a fucking police report that you were sexually assaulted. Got your mouth swabbed, clothing swabbed, everything swabbed, and filed a lawsuit against Macy's and Sean instead of 17 years later. Macy's, if you cover this up, you all are foul as hell. Because what makes me think that there's something possibly to this, you're arguing about the wording of the suit. And that tells me you know something. We get it. In responding to a lawsuit due to the statute of limitations and the allegations made by this Mr. John Doe. But right now, it still looks suspicious because out of your own mouth, you have said, oh yeah, we know Sean is a sadist. You're saying that. You're not even denying it. And see, that looks bad to me. I'm a realist. I don't know law jargon and all the legal terminology for this and that, but I know that once a person who's being sued admits that they believe the person is a predator, that they're being sued alongside, that tells me a lot. You're owning the fact that you know that Sean's a predator, but you all can't be sued for after the fact. So is there a tape of the assault? Are there any other witnesses that were present when he put his penis in the man's mouth? Are there witnesses of Sean coming out of the storeroom with the clothes and passing them around to people on the floor? Who is going to attest to this? Bodyguards, any of you going to come forward and say, yeah, this happened, we were there, we watched him rape him, and we also came out with him and he passed the clothes around? Will somebody step up and tell the truth? Or is all this make-believe? Is this just an issue? Sean had a problem with the clothes or something, and he went in the back room, words were exchanged, and this guy decided to jump on the bandwagon and get a free piece of the pie. I don't know. I just know this is the most barbaric story I've heard pertaining to Sean, besides that Lil Rod shit. Lil Rod's story is weird to me because he's a man, and I can't see a grown man willingly living with another gay man and then suing him years later to say he raped him, drugged him, when you knew he was gay when you were living with him. And why are you living with a grown-ass man? He's paying you enough money to make songs. Stay woke, everybody. I don't like sugarcoating things because when you sugarcoat things, it's as if you are aiding the perpetrator. And I'm not getting ready to aid nobody that rapes children women or men, drugs people, and films them without their consent. I'm never going to aid that type of behavior. If you like menage a trois, threesomes, foursomes, kinky sex, you want to, you're a voyeur, you want to have sex on the balcony, on the airplane, that's your damn business. But when you're talking about putting things in people's drinks and you're filming them and then you're inviting other people to participate, that's a crime, bottom line. And I don't aid that type of foolishness. It's a crime. It's sadism, and that's the bottom line. You think it's not a crime, that's your damn business. You're crazy too. You're just as sick as they are. But what's the truth to this allegation? That's my point. What's the truth to this incident at Macy's? Did Sean rape this man in public? People watched and said nothing. Macy's knew about it, covered it up, got rid of the tape, because you know they got cameras in that damn storeroom. You're talking about a major chain that has been around for years. And no way in my right mind, I'm going to believe Macy's didn't have cameras in the storeroom in 2008 or on the floor. You know they did. They got floor walkers. They got people dressed in plain clothes walking in the stores, pretending to be shoppers, all of that. And you know they're going to have people, security in the storerooms as to prevent theft by the employees. I'm not a fool. That's the latest developments, everybody. Law and Crime is the source. This is live number 2. Check out my last live from earlier pertaining to a woman who set fire to some businesses down in Puerto Rico while she was on vacation. She is now being held allegedly in a Puerto Rican jail. U.S. judge said she had to go back over there and stand account for her crimes as she should. She's facing 5 to 20 years. And then there's the case of Lake Oconee. A Black woman and man went missing on the lake. The woman was found floating as of last, I believe, Sunday or Monday. And Mr. Jones, his body has not been found. Is this foul play? That was my last live stream just over an hour ago. Feel free to check it out in the YouTube queue. And then this is live number 2 pertaining to Sean Puffy Coleman, a new allegation of a John Doe and wants to be removed from the lawsuit. They feel as though they have not done anything wrong. There's an issue of statute limitations and the wording of the plaintiff's allegations, but they do admit that Sean is a sadist. So see, that's where you fucked up. You should have never said nothing. I wouldn't even own to say, yeah, I know he's a sadist, but will this suit make it to court? Is there any type of evidentiary material pertaining to what this John Doe is alleging against Macy's and Sean Puffy Combs? That article I showed you from Forbes has 30 complaints. Are they truthful and factual, or are they money grabs? Once again, the lawsuit against Jay-Z and Sean Puffy Combs has been dismissed as of Valentine's Day, the 14th. The woman has dropped the suit, Jane Doe. Why? I don't know. And Mr. Bugsby has not spoken to the press to tell us why they dropped the suit, if it was his idea or his client's idea. Was she threatened by Sean or Jay-Z's camp representatives? Did she feel threatened? Did she feel intimidated? Was there truth to her allegations? Because what if there's some truth, but she just got scared and said, the hell with it. They're going to eventually mention my name because I believe Sean and Jay-Z wanted, well, they're both named Sean. Sean and Sean. Don't you find that funny? Sean and Sean wanted her name to be revealed. So did she feel threatened to have her name revealed? She's worried about her safety, her life being threatened, family being threatened. So she just said, the hell with it. I'll bow out of the lawsuit. Don't know. Yeah, well, when you're talking about 10, 15 years, it is your own testimony. You didn't file a police report. The only ones to me that really can stand up are those people who can come forward and say, yeah, I heard the story. But then that's still he said, she said too. But if these people filed a police report, then I'm going to bank on that. And a few of them, I do believe, filed police reports. Like the one female who went from one jurisdiction to the other out there in California. But her story is still kind of wishy-washy too. The one who the neighbor tried to help her out, but she wouldn't go with the neighbor. And then she went back into Sean's friend's house or whatever. That story is a little all over the place. But allegedly, she went to like 2 or 3 different police departments. And nobody would take the report, which I find very suspicious. Very suspicious. Why wouldn't you take the reports? Why not? You cannot just not take the report because it's somebody's famous. That's bullshit. But her story seems a little wishy too. So, see, you just don't really know what's the truth and what's not the truth. And then I think she's also been alleged of still having contact or talking to Sean thereafter, because that was an argument months ago with she and her lawyer. It seemed like her and the lawyer were off because the lawyer thought she wasn't being truthful about information. And the next thing we know, she's back representing her and speaking on her behalf to News Nation. And I think News Nation, they're being caught up in a lawsuit as well because Sean feels like they're advocating, defamation against him. And once again, several people have documentaries out. Tubi has one. TMZ has one. I was watching TMZ the other night, but I fell asleep on that one. There was so much information they were relaying. But Ray J, he was up there talking. And frankly, Ray J is not anybody that should be talking about Sean Puffy Combs or anybody. He's got his own damn problems. And the fact that he said people were coming to him asking what they should do because they feel like, they are involved in the tapes and everything. He said he didn't care about coming forward, telling this information. Well, my thing is you can be called to court, Ray J. So, see, this is why you're a fool. Are you trying to help Sean or not? The fact you're acting like you don't know of this behavior, you never went to any of these functions, you don't know anything. Stevie J, same thing in the documentary. He don't know nothing. But yet you were hanging on to Puffy before Puffy got arrested. But you don't know nothing. You don't know that your friends are drunk and an addict and a sadist. I doubt that. You didn't know he's capable of beating women. When you saw the Cassie video, you went to him like, damn, man, what's up? I didn't know you got down like that, blah, blah, blah. But you really didn't go into detail to tell us what Sean said. Sean's going to lie about everything anyway. That's all he's done. And everything that he alleged that wasn't true in Cassie's suit, we're now hearing more and more of. So as I said to you all before, if you'll lie about one thing, you'll lie about another. You said you never beat anybody, but we got you on tape beating a woman. Then you confessed that you were high and geeked up in your so-called apology that you retracted and took off of social media. Why? You never apologized to her. You just said you was in a bad place. You were doing stuff. So we now know you beat people. You also under the influence of drugs. When they were looking for you, there were drugs on your airplane that was about to leave the country. The white boy took the rap for that. Then when you came to New York to be arrested in September, there were drugs in your hotel suite. Pink powder and baggies. So you're still using drugs even after you've been investigated. So that shows me you don't care. So liar, drug addict, woman beater, ain't nothing left but the rape, the drugging, and the filming and intimidation. So I'm supposed to think that you ain't done none of those other crimes either. But you're proven as a druggie, a beater. Come on now. Tampering with witnesses. You did that the first of the year last year. Called a woman 58 times. Okay? 58 times you called a witness. So you knew you were being investigated and you were tampering with a witness. So I'm going to say it to everybody again. Drug addict, tampering with witnesses, woman beater, but you're not a rapist, you're not a drugger. Intimidation, we know you can do that because you're beating up people. So as I always say, if you lie about one thing, you'll lie about another. And if you know you're doing illegal activity and you are not trying to go down for those said things, you will do anything to get yourself out of that situation. So that's the reason why you called that one person last year 58 times. You want to get information about what they're saying or what somebody else was saying, whoever it was he was calling. The tape, allegedly you paid a lot of money for that tape. And somebody had the tape and they released it to CNN News. Did Cassie have it? I don't know, but somebody had it. On these tapes, they're coming from Cassie's device, if you all didn't know that. I just found that out last week. So she has sexual shit on her phones, her devices. They got it from her. So see, a lot of people didn't even really know, because I didn't know either, Who's bringing forward the allegations in this that got him arrested? It is all Cassie Ventura. This indictment is from her life and dealings with Puffy. The sex trafficking, coercion, drugging, filming, abuse, sex workers. This is Cassie's version. Now, will others testify in court to what she's alleged against Sean or alleging against him? How many people will go to court to testify to say, yes, what she's saying is the truth? Here's my story. Here's my story. Here's my story. And with the RICO, yes, it's supposed to be a conglomeration of others involved. That's where they come to testify in exchange for not going to prison. So I got a feeling the reason why we have not heard that other people have been arrested is because law enforcement has come to them with evidence against them that they aided Sean in some form or fashion in said crimes, and they took a plea or an exchange to testify against him in court as not to be charged. Like, share, subscribe, drop your comments below this video, weigh in, tell me what you think about the latest allegations with MACY'S and this John Doe. Follow the Queen on the Newsbreak app where I give similar commentary and content. And if you'd like to donate to this great network, $Big Angie 129 Cash App. Thank you for your time. You have been listening to Live Number 2. Have a great week. Hope you all are well. And I will be back with another crazy tale of child abuse and neglect in this country. I'm going to go ahead and talk about a story coming out of Detroit. I didn't want to talk about it, but I'm going to go ahead and talk about it because I think somebody needs to address this issue of something's going on with the State Department in Detroit, Michigan. They're not doing their due diligence to help children who are falling between the cracks of neglectful and abusive parents. And it's time that somebody steps up and step in the gap for these kids because they're not doing what they need to do up there in Detroit. We're hearing too many stories of child abuse and neglect. And I'm going to bring the bang today in my Live Number 3 pertaining to this case out of Detroit. Also, if there's an update pertaining to the 2 kids that were found dead in the casino parking garage, I'll put that in the live stream as well. Once again, have a wonderful week. You have been listening to the Vault XL. Thank you for joining me, everybody.